I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for pioneering. Whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for pioneering. I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for pioneering. Whoa, whoa. Effort, I'm built for pioneering.
Good evening and welcome to Between the Lines, presented to you by Live Wire Sports. Tonight's guest is a multi-talented person. When I say multi-talented, I really mean that to the heart. Senator Sarauw, how you doing today?
Good evening. How are you?
I'm doing great, doing great. Glad you took some time out of your busy schedule to come join us on Between the Lines.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Are you ready for this?
I am.
All right, this is an interesting situation. It's probably like nothing you've seen before, so I hope you're ready, honestly.
Let's make it happen.
All right, so when was the first time you were introduced to sports?
5 years old. The Pee Wee League baseball.
Pee Wee League baseball, you say, right?
Baseball is my first sport.
Now, that's an interesting thing because we don't get too many young ladies playing baseball at that age. What was it like for you playing amongst the boys?
There's an article in my house on the wall actually that discusses I pitch, I think it's called like 10-10, and I came in and we were playing the Pirates. This is Little League now. And I came in and I pitched the ending, like the last 2 innings, and then I went on to play 9-10 All-Star and 11-12 All-Star. And I was a pitcher and I played center field. So I was the only girl playing, but I pitched against people like Kyle Lamata, strikeout Kyle. Yeah. So I really wanted to be in a major leagues when I was younger. That was really my dream.
With you being a baseball player at young, do you think you would have been able to benefit more as a softball player at that age rather than a baseball player?
At that age, when we were playing Little League baseball, when we started off at Pee Wee League, we didn't have those feeder programs for softball. Softball really picked up like in our junior high school years, and I transitioned over to softball. But by then, I was focused on basketball and volleyball. But initially, I still like a good baseball game.
You spoke about our star team. That's a way to start off the show. How many times in your life playing baseball?
Just about every year in Little League, I made it into All-Star, and I went into Junior League. And then after I played Junior League, I went over to, I just kind of like, diverted, but almost every year.
Now, where were you able to travel playing on these All-Star teams? Because these All-Star teams travel to various different places and get various experiences in the Caribbean.
We played St. Croix. We had Panama, various Latin American, Santo Domingo. The Dominican Republic was one. So it was basically a Latin American region, and our coach was actually Grapo. May he rest in peace. But Grapo was one of our head coaches, and Audi Henneman.
Now, with you being on those baseball teams, you played against tons of players that played in the pros, whether you know it or not. Can you recall if any of those players that are currently playing in the pros or have played in the pros that you played against?
KLX Crab. KLX Crab, he played in the pros and he went on to become, and I think he's a scout now or something for one of the major league teams. But KLX used to be really good, and KLX played for the Rebels, and he was a really, really, really good pitcher. That's what I remember. Like, that's who comes off the top of my mind immediately.
When we think about Caleb Scott, he actually is the hitting coach for the Texas Rangers, the assistant hitting coach. So that's a big deal, definitely. Yeah. Can you recall any international players or players from other teams that you played against?
No, that was a long time ago, and we didn't really interact back then. We didn't interact with many of the outside teams. When you go to a Latin American country, we're really the only English speaking country down there, except for like maybe Curacao and Aruba in between. But you don't really remember anybody because you're isolated, and I was the only girl. So mommy kept a close eye on me on the All-Star trips.
We'll definitely help you out with that because I'm sure you played against somebody in the pros, and they probably remember that girl on the team just because you were the only female.
Oh, you have that answer already?
I don't have the answer, but we can find it. Trust me.
Oh,
All right. Did you play any sports in high school?
so I played volleyball, then I went to basketball, and then I went to softball. And then in between, I was a drum major of the Marching Hawks because I'm a saxophone player. So I had that as well.
No,
So
I know you heard my introduction when I said multi-talent. You were the drum major. You played about 4 or 5 sports. How did you have time for yourself at that age?
I would say time management because I still had Rising Stars. I played quads in Rising Stars, and then we had the band. And then so in the afternoon after school, you have practice. The varsity team will have practice, and then Rising Stars would be like in the afternoon. So after schools, you have marching band on the field, and then while the marching band is practicing and playing for concerts or any trips that we have, the JV team would be practicing. And then when the JV would come off the court, I would move up from on the field to the gym. And then when I was finished with the gym, I'd walk over to the panyard for Rising Stars.
All right, so that sounds like a no sleep for young Janelle. No sleep, always on the field, always in the
Yeah,
classroom, always on the go.
it was pretty intense.
All right, did you get an opportunity to play any sports at the collegiate level?
I did. I went to school and I had a few options between basketball and volleyball, and I went on a few recruiting trips. And after I went on a few recruiting trips, I decided on FAU. The coach, the environment, the major, academics was number one for my mom. So unlike what I see today, where athletes are signing letters of intent, having not seen the school, that concerns me immensely. I guess you're getting to that in a different section of the show, but we were able to travel and coaches paid for my mom and I. And I was able to like hang out with the team, stay with a teammate, and experience what that would be like. And then on signing day, I signed in the early signing period. So I signed prior to running for Carnival Queen and becoming the 2003 Queen. I already committed to FAU because I signed my national letter of intent in the early signing period. I think it was early November or late October at that time.
All right, I'm running out of fingers now. We said softball, basketball, volleyball, rising stars, drum major, carnival queen. We need to add anything. Oh, little league baseball. We need to add anything else to this because this is a lot.
But I've been a Mogo Jumbi in my life too as well. So I've been dancing since I was about like 6 years old.
I think the better question would be: is there anything that you cannot do?
Same.
We can work on that. We can get you some singing lessons. We can get that. It's never too late. We can always go back and start over.
Maybe, you know.
All right. How was it playing varsity sports in high school? Did you wait until later in your years, or did you start from your freshman year playing varsity?
I've never played JV except for junior high, 7th and 8th, which was like mandatory because you can't go in school. When I went to high school, Mr. Corbett saw me, may he rest in peace, and he was like, "You are my team." And in volleyball, my dad and my mom are both volleyball enthusiasts. My father was the president of the volleyball association. And my mom was over the Power League. So two different associations, one played spring and one played summer. And I've been bouncing on volleyball since I could remember. It wasn't my preference, baseball was. But I've always, so when I got to high school, I was already advanced in the sport already. So I've never played, I played varsity my entire 4 years of high school.
That's amazing right there. Were the upperclassmen welcoming to a young, fresh ninth grader on the team?
Well, Mr. Corbett, we didn't have a choice. So with basketball, Mr. Corbett, I was a starter I was in the starting five in my ninth grade year. And you have those who are like, jealous. And then when I went to volleyball, you had, the Miriam Bradley could tell you she's my assistant coach. And Miriam would be like, pick up the balls. And I'd be like, who are you talking to? I'm a starter, like you talking to me. So it was interesting when I first came, they had this whole freshman thing about we should pick up the balls, do this, do that with the payloads. And I was like, no. So Miriam and I would fight because she was 2 grades above me. And they used to call me the feisty freshman that they knew. But I knew I earned my spot, so I ain't no payload. But we didn't that was the only hurdle that I had to overcome. But as we continued, I love my teammates. I'm so close with Miriam and Kamarsha and Sasha Gums and the rest of them that I played with because we developed a bond over the years. Carissa Bratwick, Vicky Lewis. So it was fun.
Now, which sport did you feel like you were the best at in high school?
I would say my skill was equal in both basketball and volleyball. I could have gone for either or, but I chose volleyball based on I had a really good coach in high school, Charlie Davis, and he was our coach from like 7th grade, and he moved to high school and we moved to high school, CAHS, and he was exciting. So I kind of lean more to volleyball as I like, but I continued to play on a youth national team. We went to Guatemala. We won the gold medal, Lynn and I. I think I was the MVP in that tournament in Guatemala when we won the gold medal for the national basketball team, and I played in the senior national basketball team as well. So, um, after I would come from summer break from volleyball, my college coach would allow me to go and play national team for basketball and volleyball. So either or was, I always say my skill was even in both.
What was it like just being able to represent your country? A lot of people take it for granted at times, whether it's in the Virgins or other places. What was it like for you to represent your country at that young age?
It's a sense of pride beyond the national team. There's a sense of pride when you playing against a school like Clemson or Iowa, the Buckeyes, and you go to Colorado State, and then start in six, and they're saying Janelle Sarauw from St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. They have no idea where on the map you're from, and then they'll play a calypso song, some song they find, because we would come out to our cultural music. And I know people were like, you from the Virgin Islands, and I felt and I had immense pride for the fact that you open a book in college. When you open a player profile, it said where I was from, the high school I came from. So a lot of us that play collegiate ball and national team put the territory on the map. But locally, we're never recognized for the work that we have done so far.
Well, we definitely here to recognize you and thank you for your accomplishments and the path that you have paved for a lot of younger female athletes, especially growing up in these times.
Thank you.
All right, with you going to FEU, were you able to be recruited straight directly from home at Charlotte Mali?
Um, I went to AAU conference. And Mark Daniel was my assistant coach in the club. I played club Island Mix. Island Mix exists today, but we were the first set of Island Mix girls because Mr. Davis formed it to make sure we had scholarships. He was a coach. Mark Daniel was assistant coach, and we were playing in Barry University at some game, and I hit a ball from the left side, and a girl dug it up. So it came back over and one right by the net, and I regrouped, ran to the middle, and it's called an one. It was an overpass, and I pounded the ball straight back down on the 10-foot line. And at that point, I saw every single scout began to circle around the court and the bench. And Mark Daniel will give the story better than me, but that's where and I was in 11th grade at the time. I wasn't even 10th to 11th grade. I wasn't a senior, and people started to like gravitate to me, and then I started to get calls every day from like 10, 11, 12 schools looking to recruit me from 11th grade, sending me like packets and applications. So I think it would come from that AAU tournament, and as I continue to play and continue to grow, because if you ever see me jump, I would jump out of the gym, and I think that my raw athleticism was helpful in that. So I would say my scholarship came via the AAU tournament, and then of course video that we sent to schools.
Now, with 10 to 12 scholarships out there basically waiting for you, can you recall any of those other schools besides FAU that offered you a scholarship?
Duquesne, Duke, FIU, Syracuse was one. There was a lot more, and there were top Division One schools. And I know for me, I trimmed it to Florida, South Florida, because I hate the cold. And then it ended up being between FIU and FAU.
Now, with you being a Division One athlete yourself, do you think we have a lot of Division One athletes at home that are able to make the jump directly from the Virgin Islands straight into D1 sports?
If I'm to be honest, the talent pool has fallen off the map, and it is no fault of the athlete. It's the fault of like Mr. Davis retired, Mr. Corbett passed away, and you had a gap in people teaching athletes and honing athletes, and then with the gyms, the lack of facilities also becomes a problem, a huge problem. So you don't have a general like we played ball all year long. Like, we went from spring league to it was school league, and after we play a school league game, you switch uniform and go and play at nights because you had a spring league game, and then you go into summer, and then you go from summer to national team, and then back to school league, and we played all year long religiously. So the talent pool would reduce, one due to technology, and two the lack of leagues and sports, basically. There's no feeder programs. We've been playing like since we were elementary, bouncing the ball, running around the gym. I was literally born in a gym. My mother played until she was ready to deliver me. She played with me in her stomach. So we don't have that anymore. You don't have those youth leagues. You don't have those feeder programs.
Now, you sound like you had motivation driven in you from the beginning. A lot
Mhm.
of players don't have that motivation. They lack motivation. What was the thing that kept you motivated at all times?
It was fun. It was a place to hang out with your friends. You know, it was. I wouldn't say it was anybody in particular, but the environment fostered. We had an environment of sports. You had like women's softball playing in Griffith Park. Like, when you want to hang out, you go to the bar park. When you want to watch basketball in the summer, you go to Man League. And Man League was a place to be. You don't have Man League anymore. You don't have like a summer league for volleyball. You don't have zero tolerance is kind of picking up. That's the only league I see really doing a good job in trying to like mold young athletes. You don't see a lot of that. So I used to just doing this with the phone, you know. So I think it would stem from that. We were always outside, climbing trees, riding bike, falling down. And you wanted to do more because if your friend playing, like my friend Jakima stopped playing baseball because I was in baseball practice.
That's how it always starts.
Correct. So like in 11, like when we were 11 years old, she started to play baseball and she joined the Archers, but I was already in the sports. And then for junior league, 13 to 15, we went on the Mariners together with Audie Henneman and Grateful. So it boils down to just you go because you want to socialize and then you take advantage of it.
Definitely. I just want to give a shout out to Archers. I play for Archers as well. That is a great sports organization in the Virgin Islands. Great, great.
Definitely, definitely.
Now, you chose volleyball at the collegiate level. Do you think it was possible for you to be more successful in another sport besides volleyball?
I don't know because when I came from playing volleyball, I was a key part of the national basketball team. They were Yannick and Stacy and Lil Shaq and Toombi Bell, which is Raja Bell's sister. She was our point guard, Lynn Libod. But I played for a really, really good collegiate coach. My team I had a little short coach named Jody Brown, and I had an assistant coach who was a star player at UF. And at the time, UF was ranked number 4. Her name was Aijan Kara. So I really had, and I had Barkley Wyckoff. So I had some really, really good coaches. Jody Brown wrote a book in volleyball and the study of volleyball and the science of it. So I came on a very, very good program. So I don't know if I'd be more successful in the other one because at that point I began to hone in on volleyball a lot. And my skills just went like whoosh because I had really, really good coaches to take me from being so athletic and refining my game.
When you listen to most athletes talk, they always had a time where it was a struggle for them. They debated quitting or giving up on the sport they love. Did you ever go through a rough patch like that?
My rough patch was really homesickness. Having been born and raised on an island, and then volleyball is a predominantly white sport. So when you see a volleyball team in college, you go always see that one token black girl. When you look at Nebraska, when you look at Hawaii, Stanford, they have a really good team as well. You see that you have that one token black girl, and then the Olympic team has about 3 or 4 of them. So it was a hard adjustment culturally. Like my teammates, we had team bonding activities and they would want to go tanning. And I'd be like, I black. I can't go in the sun with you and tan. Um, in the morning, we drink a cup of tea or coffee. And in college, my coach is giving me a sandwich and a cool cup of water in the morning for breakfast. So we had differences in the way I eat, the way I spoke, and then the types. They became shorter and shorter in college, and I was uncomfortable in my freshman year wearing those short pants. So it wasn't a matter of quitting, but I remember preseason, for example, and I always tell people that college have the most dedicated athletes, not the most gifted athletes, because preseason was we had from 4 to 5 we had weightlifting, and we take a break, and from 6 to 7, we had conditioning, 1 hour of crazy conditioning. So that's 2 practices already for preseason. We were on the courts again from 9 to 11. We had lunch. We were on the courts again from 2 to 4. We would have dinner and we were on the courts again from 6 to 9. And that was for a month. I remember calling home crying because I couldn't even like raise my hand to take my bra off. I was so sore. My calves were like really, really hard and tense. So to go through that whole preseason process as a freshman, I was like, what in the world is this? Because in the Virgin Islands, we don't do any strength training. We don't do any serious conditioning. So that was a shocker for me. But when I got past that, I was fine.
Mental toughness and physical strength is two things that you definitely always have to adapt to whenever you move up a level. If you go from junior high to high school to college to professional, you always have to make that step both mentally and physically. So I can understand where you had that struggle or that little unsurety in that moment.
Yeah. So
All right, can you tell us your best stat line in a game? We'll talk about volleyball because you play too much sports to go into everything.
um, probably when I made double digits, almost everything, serving points, hitting, and blocking. I think I have at FAU, I have the record for the most number of blocks in a game. And that would be most likely against, I think it was against Clemson State. Between Clemson or I believe Troy, one of them. But that would probably be my most memorable game. And I remember we went to 5 and the coach was like, give the ball to Cool Running. That's what he used to call me. And then the ball was set to me and the score. And back then in college, we played to 30, not to 25. I think they went back down to 25 now in college, where we played to 30. And in the fifth set, I went up, and I remember my coach teaching me to do a line shot, not to face the direction of the ball, but to go across to the side and hit the ball straight down the line, like nearly chopped the setter, and we won the game. So that would be my most memorable moment of making double digits and winning a game.
Now, when it comes to accomplishments, I know you have a ton of trophies. What was your biggest accomplishment or biggest award you received as a player?
It'll probably be high school when I won the Virgin Islands Athlete of the Year for the territory. My brother won it 3 years before me when he was in 12th grade. So I won it not as the most female or male, but as the territorial athlete. And the other one would be the Palm Beach Post wrote about this dynamic freshman that was coming in to change the game. And then I remember winning. I made it to the all conference team. And then I was actually the player of the week quite a few times. And I was actually freshman of the year. So that will probably, there's a few of them that I would be proud of because it's hard to win such accolades on a collegiate level.
Now, with you winning territorial athlete of the year, did you have to win your school athlete of the year as well?
Yeah, I wondered. So the Daily News used to have athletes of the week a lot. And then that's why I said sports kind of drop off. I don't see any athletes of the week anymore being celebrated. And used to work for that. Like used to be like, I can be athlete of the week. Like and it's a comparison between the two and you pushing each other to be better. So I would say it was actually that, and then it was between the Daily News ran the entire back page of all the athletes in the territory, from soccer to who play baseball, and you see the athletes, and then they'll make a decision on honors night in 12th grade. So on honors night, that's when I learned that I made it to be the territorial athlete of the year. I still have it home, a big, big cup, and you won $1,000.
All right, so now I feel like I'm in elite company now because in South Mali, when I graduated 12th grade, I was the athlete of the year. So now I feel like we have a band that's unbreakable now.
Awesome.
All right, you talked about running for Carnival Queen as well, which you did win because you seem to win at everything you do. Was there anything that you were able to take from sports and use it in the pageant or vice versa?
Dedication. When I don't know something, I can't do something, like we used to, my father would always, in between that time, because he's a referee, I would have to bring him the ball and learn to pass and perfect my passing. So with the patch, I learned if I couldn't do something, which was walking heels, I knew that I needed to perfect it. And I kept going and I would be twisting my ankle and falling on in the house. And I was like, what did I get myself into? But it really boiled down to learning how to commit to something and seeing it through. And that's what I got from sports.
Now, at what point did you realize that you can be, you can have involvement in athletics that does not involve playing the sport?
Um, in high school, actually, we had this man named, I think, David Idol. Mr. Idol used to follow us around every place that we go. And Mr. Idol can't play any sports. He was, he was an interested man. But Mr. Idol played an important role on his side by keeping stats. We realized that the importance of refereeing because for AAU, when you travel for AAU requires you, after you play, the team has to referee the game. So I would say in high school, I noticed that there was an entire industry around athletics that we missed.
All right, Senator. So we're actually going to take a break to hear some words from our sponsors. We'll be right back with more Between the Lines shortly. All right, we are back with more Between the Lines with Senator Janelle Sarauw. Senator Sarauw, you still here?
I'm here.
I just got to make sure. I heard you mention about having a coaching staff earlier. Where do you coach?
CHS, Hawks.
Now, are you coaching basketball, volleyball? Are you coaching marching band? You got to tell us.
Well, since I left college, I made volleyball my focus because I saw that basketball had some succession plan between Corbett and Mr. Horton. So I went back to my alma mater because when I came back from college, I was a U.S. history teacher at CAHS. So I started to coach them, revive the program because when I came home, we were over October. We went from being the school to beat. And when I got back, I was like, what? We couldn't win a game. So I decided to devote my time to CAHS to give back to the school that made me. And then I started a nonprofit called Sky High Volleyball Club. And I coached the U national team. And I had to stop because the demands of the job became too much.
Now, was that your first coaching job and your only coaching job?
CAHS was my first, yeah, my first coaching job initially, yeah. And it wasn't really hard to, I thought it would be hard, but I had fun because once you have a love for the sport and volleyball, when you play collegiate ball many times, you study the sport a lot. You have pregame, you have to go in a locker room and walk with your binder and study the team and figure out what's the stats of a player before, what's the hitting percentage. You learn to follow stats like you learn to, most times my hitting would be like between 400 and 500. You want your stats to be like this, and that to be like one game you up, one game you down. So starting to coach, it was easy for me. My players could tell you like it's a science for me. Volleyball comes very, very natural to me. And when I, on a collegiate level, you have types of defenses and types of offenses. And so coming home, I try to revamp the program to have a quicker style play, know what type of defense you should have, a 6-2 in and out, a 5-1. So I needed to up the game and get them to being ready for college.
No, those stuff that they're teaching them are great because I'm pretty sure those are stuff that they are not familiar with, but now they have a head start when they decide to take it to the next level. So that's a great job by you on that part.
Thank you.
Now, how did COVID, which is about the worst thing that's happening in my lifetime, happen? How did that affect your volleyball season?
It's dead, and I watched today on the front page where they announced no sports for the fall sports. And I don't think that the department, I don't think that um, they didn't even bring it to the table to have a discussion where, like, I know volleyball, particularly, there's a net separating the team. So you would limit body interaction, and you could always go to a 4-4 instead of six. You could change the size of the court. You could do four people. So you still have that technique. You still passing. You still solving. You still working on a set. Your approach to hit. Your form. We weren't creative. I mean, at this time, tennis is a one-on-one sport. You know, where are we on moving, because volleyball and tennis are sister sports. Sasha Gums is actually one of the best tennis players and have been a really, really good volleyball player. And Sasha went to University of Houston on a tennis scholarship and ended up finishing college on a volleyball scholarship because she was that good. So we didn't have a discussion. They didn't allow us to come to the table and say, how can we figure out, even if you can't do tackle football, how do we do flag by just pulling flags, limited amount of players on a field? Nothing was done beside cancellations, and that concerns me.
Yeah, it's definitely heartbreaking to see, especially the kids that just don't get to play because a lot of kids, all they have is sports that keep them going in school and keep them going in life. It's definitely heartbreaking to see them not have an opportunity to not only play but build friendships and just get out the house a little bit more. So it's heartbreaking to see that happening.
Yeah, most of my and sports has taught me so much overall, even in the political field. I see agencies come before us and say they're in the process of the planning, it hasn't been done, they're touchy if you have to fuss at them. And I know for me, in a 30-second timeout, you don't have the time to debate the coach. You don't have the time to not listen and be attentive. You don't have the time to say, well, this is why I didn't get done. Like, he give you a game plan and you go back and you execute the game plan. So when I come to work, I don't take 10 years to complete a task. I know that this is what we have to do and just do it. The excuses, as an athlete, I'm not used to, because you train, like even before herring, I always read, I prep, I make sure I'm ready for a herring, and I'm always well read. And that comes from sport. You don't just show up and I didn't become good overnight. I had to prepare, I had to practice, I had to cry, I had to be in pain. So a lot of that time management, commitment, that came from my athletic upbringing. So
Sports is a universal tool, and I don't think it gets enough credit for the way it can shape a person as well as build the proper qualities and characteristics, honestly.
correct. So I'm open. Like, even I read a paper sometimes they eat me alive. And you're used to constructive criticism, especially if you have a basketball coach like Sarauw or Corbett. You get cussed from the beginning of the game to the end. You think you play your best game. Corbett cussing you to get back down. And it's okay because I know that I am never good enough. I know that I need to always improve on something, and I don't intend to be cocky about it in my political life or even when I'm coaching. So there's so many lessons from sports that transcend into, other parts of our lives.
Now, how has the people who coached you helped transition you into becoming a good coach?
Mr. Davis, first of all, Mr. Corbett just always started coaching. As I landed when I came back from college, Mr. Corbett was like, "You CAHS head coach." I was like, "What? I don't even know how to coach, Mr. Corbett." So just having that belief in me would be one. And two, many times I call Mr. Davis. I said, "Mr. Davis, we keep getting beat on defense. What do you like? What do you suggest?" And he'd be like, change your offense. And, so I began to scout a lot more. And the tempo of play coming back from college to the Virgin Islands was like going from the Jetson era to the Flintstones era. In college, a game is like this. You blink your eye, you get chapped. And then when it came back to high school, the ball was going slow, everybody moving slow, like, you know, just that technique. So I began coaching and I was very frustrated because another problem with sports is that we don't have a feeder program. So by the time I get to high school, I have the 11th grade or the 12th grader that has backward feet, horrible form, and I spend so much time on teaching the bad habits from the elementary level because elementary does not have that qualified personnel. When you look at an elementary team, everybody's smacking the ball over the net like this. And I would prefer to see if a team loses, but you see them, attempting to have three hits, a bomb set, a spike. Nobody's switching in the game. So by the time I get to high school, I'm like teaching them how to switch, where to go, where you belong, and serve, receive, if the ball go over the net, where you should be. Those are things that should really be taught on the foundational level. And by the time you get to me, I need to move you to the collegiate level. And I find myself stuck over the years in this gap of trying to teach them the sport from the beginning to the end and still trying to get them a scholarship to school. And that frustrates me to no end. But that's not the player's fault. That's the fact that many of us made it and didn't look back to reach back and help that new generation.
Now, with you being a coach, what are some of your greatest accomplishments as a coach?
One would be the set with Tiandra. I had Tiandra and I had Amara. And I remember getting Tiandra from basketball. And she probably watching and gonna laugh about this. But I remember saying, Tiandra, when the ball come, go to the left and then stay there and then go back to your position. And the game going on, the ball going back and forth, this hell of a rally. And I looking for Tiandra and because I tell Tiandra to go in the corner and stay there. She stayed there the entire time. So that would probably be one of my best moments because I was able to get her from being this superstar basketball player to actually embracing the sport of volleyball. My second biggest accomplishment would be Marissa Murphy. She finished college like 2 or 3 years ago, but when I got Marissa, I saw her in the hall and I was like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "Nothing." And I said, "You tall, meet me to the gym." She was in 10th grade at the time, and I got her in 10th grade. And I would coax her to go in a game, and she's like, "No, no, 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 it's okay." And it was against St. Peter and Paul. We know how that goes. And I put her in a game, and as soon as the ball came over the net, I saw her body going like this. And she just like collapsed. She had total anxiety. And we had to take her to the hospital, and then we just kept working with Marissa, and Marissa became a beast by 12th grade. If you ever see her jump, her vertical, she's so athletic. I mean, she peaks when it's time to block. And I was like, I'm so amazed because she went to college and she just dominated, period. So, those are moments where I am proud of because just as much as they learned from me, I learned from them. I learned patience. I mean, I learned to love them like they were my own. I learned to deal with attitudes. I had a little Lipri, Larina little sister. And Lipri was a lot, those small packages come with a lot of feistiness. And it was interesting to walk among those personalities and get them to, really be a team and to come together and understand that, I am my brother and my sister's keeper and no one man can win a game. So those are my accomplishments, seeing how they bonded and how we moved the program from a failing program to a successful one.
Now, those players that you mentioned are all familiar to me. I watched those girls play when I was in high school as well. That was my era of sports. I actually graduated with Marissa, so you talking about them and giving these stories, I can vision what it was like because I was there seeing some of those moments happen. So you ain't lying about none of those situations that you just mentioned. Definitely.
Because when Marissa faint, I turned to Miriam. I was like, did I make the right choice by picking this child? Like she can't be fainting all the time on the court. She was so frightened, and then we just stuck with her. And it goes back to that whole commitment. When you commit to something, and we committed to Marissa, and we made sure that she got to college.
That's great. That's great. Did you ever find yourself having to prove yourself to your players? Because they think, well, I good now, and you were probably good back then, but your back then ain't as good as now. So you ever had to like show them that, yeah, I could still play this game too.
Yeah, Larina seen me in the gym a few times, and I have played. I have gotten out of the bench a few times and played. Cause oh, coach, you and all of that. And I'm like, okay, fine, I coaching. And there are times when I scrimmage against them, like when we have a championship game, I put on my sneakers and I go and I scrimmage and I start blazing balls across the net and I see them starting to scatter after a while, who can get chopped in the chest, and I remind them like, stop playing the fool and play some defense. If you don't want to get official, play some defense. So we have fun in the process, but those are times that I jump in and play with them and let them know who's still boss.
It's definitely a great experience when you can still go on the court and you can kind of prove yourself to them. It kind of makes them gravitate a little bit more to what you're saying when you can provide whether it's footage or actually still play the sport or even just show that you went to a college. It gives them a different perspective to see that someone that was in their shoes a couple of years ago can either still do it or have paved the way for them. So that's definitely a way to deal with your program. I love that. That's great.
Yeah. I mean, I doubt I could play now because in the practice before the championship game against Antilles, they say I was in the gym and I hit a ball, blaze a ball, like, yeah, in their face. And then the second ball came and I went to make an approach. I was like, Lev, give me the ball again. Like, I gonna mash somebody up. And the ball came and I made an approach and I had pop in my knee. And I went straight to the floor, like, shucks. So I had knee reconstructive surgery in November. So I'm rehabbing, but I can still pass the ball and set. Don't ask me to run, but you know,
I think your effort in that situation did more than you know. Just like I said, inspiring them and just seeing you get out there and be involved with them to see that you're not like teaching them something that you can't do or something that you've never done. It's a whole different perspective to get from that.
definitely. And quickly, we have a lot of greatness among us in the Virgin Islands, and we have this habit of believing that when somebody come from away, that's gospel, and the things that we see in practice every single day. We've been on that level. We've played. We've traveled. We've been coached by some of the best people. And our athletes have a habit, Virgin Islanders, period, have a habit of because you're from away, it's the gospel. And we need to change our perspective and our mindset. That I could pack up tomorrow and go and coach any place and make money, but I volunteer free of charge my time to Sky High and to CAHS because I believe that our children have something to offer and they can make it. We just need to change the structure of athletics and we need to work on more facilities and how we need to make sports a priority.
And that's the big difference with a coach that wants to coach rather than a coach that's getting paid to coach. Now, if you're getting paid to coach, that's fine as well, but you still have to put in the time, whether you're getting paid or not. So when the season is over, you still need to be involved with those children, whether you're practicing, whether you're checking on their grades, whether you're making sure they get right home from school. You have to still be involved more than what you're getting paid for to be a real coach.
Yeah. You drop them home, you feed them. I mean, it's a lot.
That becomes your if you're younger is your little brother and little sister. If you're older, your nieces and nephews. You just have
Yeah.
to have that love for them to allow them to prosper in that sport. If you don't have love for them or don't show them love, they won't perform for you or perform for themselves for that matter. So I definitely can see where you were going as far as your passion. and how your love for them translate to getting them where they are today.
Definitely.
Now, you named some of your players that got to the next level. Do you have any more that you didn't get to mention that made it to the collegiate level?
My brain dead. I want to send it for Aldi. So forgive me, please. Lorena is the statistician. I coach kids beyond high school to the national team, and I know we had a few. We had Tamisha. We had forget. It's a lot. It's a lot that went to the sector that next level. And I actually played with some of them on the national team. They were hopping and skipping around me, and I was like, I can't keep up with these girls.
Actually,
So
a name that just came in, Nisha Lindo.
yes, oh God, Nisha had a heavy hand, very good hitter. Nisha Lena was one of them. Ishe played briefly at Lawson State in Alabama, and he said after 2 years she had enough. Um, we had a few that went to school on scholarships, and there was more that we could have done for some of our other athletes. But being a coach and then still coming to the gym in between a Senate hearing, a session to coach and practice, I think that's where the Department of Education comes in. The athletic director needs to keep files on athletes, stats on athletes. When they get to the 11 and 12 grade, they're making sure that they move to the clearinghouse, making sure that they have that athletic counseling, that they know the letter of intent, what does it say, making sure that we have video and we have connections with various schools. We should be a feeder program to at least five main colleges, some HBCUs, and some other Division One, two, or three. Because everything I went to a Division One school, but some of our athletes are good enough for Division Two, Division Three. But the end goal is a free education, using that skill for free education. And I don't think we place a lot of the onus on the coach when we need to establish an infrastructure that would move children through the system. And I believe that within the Department of Education, the athletic director needs to start from young, tracking those athletes, seeing where they move from sport to sport, giving her advice, having clinics, more scouts coming here. And that's what emphasis should be placed on, really.
And honestly, I wholeheartedly agree with you on that. And I think that is one of the biggest reasons for Live Bar. We want to assist in any way possible to get those kids that opportunity to get college for free. That's the biggest thing to us. We want to promote them as much as possible. We keep stats. We have videos of them just because we want them to have that opportunity to play at the next level. We don't want them to have any excuses to why they can't make it or why they can't do it. So Livewire is definitely there to provide most of those things we spoke about, and we will continue to help this community when it comes to that situation. Definitely.
And I see a question from Nia. Any advice for any upcoming athletes? I would say to just continue training, to continue to like push. If you're unhappy, if you're in a program and you're unhappy in your program, I always like a video, reach out to colleges, see what works best. Um, what look at the academics of a school as well, but continue training, continue to remain relevant. Don't sit down and rest on your laurels because many athletes come home for summer and any kind of break and just start hanging out partying, and then when you miss a week of workout, when you miss 2 weeks of working out, you get a setback, like you feel like it's months. So remain committed to the cause and network. And Lorena and Livewire is a good. I'm happy that Livewire does exist because a lot of our games were not being televised. We don't really have stats on our players because coming from coaching, I don't have anybody in the stands to film, and people are looking for film as well. So continue to just pound the pavement, and if you need advice one on one, I'm always here. And then I saw one from Brittany. Should I be answering questions? How does this go?
So we're gonna actually get to the question and answer
Oh, let
segment
me stop.
later.
Okay, let me stop.
But there you go, being innovative, doing it on your own. Hey, that's fine. That's perfectly okay. But we definitely gonna get to the questions a little
Okay,
bit later.
okay.
All right, one of the biggest things we have, the biggest problems we have with sports in the Virgin Islands, I think, is our lack of support for females in sports. What do you think is the biggest roadblock we have with young ladies playing sports here in the Virgin Islands?
That's a national issue. That's not relegated to the Virgin Islands. You have Title IX. If Title IX didn't come into play, that mandates in college whatever male sports get, female sports have to get too. You look at the NBA to the WNBA. That's a prime example. You have professional volleyball in other countries, but in the Virgin Islands, I mean not the Virgin Islands, in the US, you don't have a professional volleyball league. So we still, it wouldn't be relegated to the Virgin Islands, but we still live in a very patriarchal society. A lot of misogyny continues to prevail in sports. So it would require a cultural shift. That's not just in the athletic community.
So, what can we do as a community to help push females in sports?
You need more athletic leagues. You need to go in and you need to recruit girls and ask them if they want to play sports and see their interest. And at that age is a developmental age. So children shouldn't be on the bench for the entire game. Give them a chance to learn and feel. We need to have more clinics, more trainings, more fun stuff, sign up days where you could sign your children up. But basically you need more leagues and you need more facilities. And the more that they play, like I know there's a group, for example, you have that group with Kiana, Amaya, what's her name? Tayel, they've been playing together from Gladys Abraham. And they continue to play as children running around in some gray pants and some pink shirts, playing at Griffith Park with Marlon Richardson, and then they went to Richie. And when you look at where those girls are today in their sport, Kiana is a beast at shortstop. And for the like of me, I don't know why she hasn't signed. I don't know why Debbie daughter for basketball. I forget her name. Shaniqua. I don't know why Shanique. I don't know why she hasn't signed as well. But when you look at, players from young, I think that team right there that Richie had and Marlon had, that's a perfect example of promoting sports. And those girls grew together, but they always had to travel to Puerto Rico to play because they didn't have any opposing team of girls their age to continue playing.
All right, so we definitely want to give a big shout out to the junior softball team of Richard Clendenin and Marlon. Actually, Kiana Lake did sign to play. She signed to play for Morgan State University.
Okay, perfect. And did Shanique sign?
I am not sure about that one, but we can get that.
Marina will tell me.
Definitely. All right, how important is it? We spoke about those set of softball girls. How important is it for you being a girl who played baseball at a young age that we have a softball Pee Wee league rather than just a baseball league for boys and some girls play?
You need both. You need both, and I think that they were moving in that direction. But it's hard when you come. If you ever seen being at Griffith Park on a typical day outside of the pandemic, you have a team in the corner in left field, one in right field. You're waiting for a team to come off the infield to get some infield action to happen. The same with McBean, and then we go down to Joseph Abin. So when you have 3 ballparks being used by over 20 something teams between La Leche, Pee Wee, La Leche, Little League, then there's not that space for girls sports to develop. And I think that's also a problem. I keep going back to facilities, and we, as a senator, it pains me to see how we zone. We zone for a gas station, and we zone for an ex-corner store, an ex-hotel, and that land could actually be used to develop athletes. Because I've traveled to Barbados and played in the Sir Garfield Sobel Stadium. I've traveled to the Bahamas. I've traveled to Suriname. We played in Trinidad and Tobago. We played in almost every Caribbean island, and their facilities are, bar none. And then when we come here, gym playing and the gym raining, the roofs are too low, they're not high enough. So you like CH's, the roof is not regulation. So when you pass a ball on a hit, it hits the roof. I mean, none of our facilities are to professional standards to even host international tournaments. And I think that's a problem. So it goes back to your question of facilities. and that would create more space for female athletes to also flourish.
All right, so now you get past the easy part. But we're gonna give you a break right now because this is the part right here that can change everything about this show. We're gonna take a break and be right back with more between the lines shortly. Welcome back to Between the Lines here with our guest, Senator Janelle Sarauw. They're about to get real interested now. I hope you're ready for this part.
Sure, go ahead.
All right, this is our interactive segment. It is called This or That. I give you two options. You choose this or that. We might judge you a little bit based on your answers.
Okay.
All right, first, this or that. Cookie Point or Limburg Bay?
Cookie Point.
Now, did you live in a country or town?
Bodo.
So how did you make your way to Cookie Point?
That's the best beach ever. That's my spot.
All right, I'll let you have that one day. I mean, Bodo have like its own beaches, so you could have picked a beach in Bodo, but I'll let that.
Sandy Bay.
World Series or NBA Finals?
NBA Finals.
No, you ain't sure about that one. So I give you another second. You sure?
NBA Finals.
Why the NBA Finals?
Just all the action, 7 games, like, is intense.
Now, I thought as a baseball lover who
It's a hard pick.
There we go. That's what we want, pressure situations.
Yeah. Thank God they're different seasons.
Johnny Cake or Patty?
Patty.
Why Patty?
I eat a patty every morning, which is not good, but I go by the chop. By
Saltfish or beef?
Saltfish.
All right. There's a win. That's a win. Uno or spades?
Uno.
No. Uno has breaking up so many friendships in my life. Not too many feelings, but it's something you can't just like give up. Like you have to play Uno still.
Correct.
It has 10,000 different ways to play Uno, and they're making up ways every day.
Correct. That's true.
Losing your memory or not being able to create new ones?
Losing my memory.
Why is that? That's an interesting one.
Because I watched my grandmother die from Alzheimer's. She died last week. And if I could have 1 minute with her to remember who I was, it was difficult when she just, it's been like 7 years. She's like, who are you? And I've never met you before, and I will give anything to have her memory, um, come back for a moment.
Could definitely understand the how it pulls your heartstrings in that situation with that question. So I definitely agree with you. Bungee jumping or skydiving?
I like both. I think I would do skydiving.
That was a question where you're supposed to say none and like run away from the question, not say that you like to do both.
I would skydive. I want to go through the air and feel like I
Well,
would do sky.
I'll be either on the bridge watching you bungee jump, or I will be on the floor watching you skydive. I'm doing neither. This is crazy. All right, now the greatest question of all, and this will determine if we didn't stay on this night or we have to leave.
Okay.
Griffith Ballpark or McBean?
Really?
Yeah,
I come from the West. I play LF Hendricks West Little League. It would be Griffith Park.
that's all we needed. That's it right there. That's it. This is great. She chose Griffith Ballpark, the greatest ballpark in the Virgin Islands, in my opinion. So definitely going with Griffith Ballpark. So you survived this or that segment. However, now we have a blast from the past. We're gonna print up some pictures for you to see of what happened in the past. Or you want you to tell us what's the first thing you think about or what was happening in that moment when you see this picture.
Okay.
All right. Picture number one.
This our national team. We were playing. I think we were Morovitz, Puerto Rico. I think we lose to somebody that night, but we had a good time. I see Baby Shaq and Tumbi and Lynn, Zena, Lauren, Yannick, Stacy. Yeah, we were having a good time.
All right. That doesn't look like a losing face at all. That looks like
Actually, no, no, this is before the game. We weren't sweaty. This is before the game. As a national basketball team,
all right. What year was this?
2007 or 8, one of them. I want to say 7.
All right. Moving on to the next picture.
I was in my freshman year in high school, and I was playing among. And we didn't have. It's interesting to watch this because we couldn't afford proper uniforms, and they gave us those shirts. And we had one uniform, and we used to wring out our shirts. The gym had no AC, and then we used to drag these poles with like concrete in the middle of them and tie the pole to the. At the time, the gym had these concrete blocks that had space in them, and you tie it up in between, and the sun will be beaming through. And almost when I look at that picture, about 4 of us played Division One ball from that. Kamasha went to High Point, Miriam went to FIU, I went to college, Tracy went someplace else, Richana went to I think a Division Two. So that brings back memory. And Mr. Davis, of course.
No, if all those players went on to play collegiate ball, that's a legendary picture. I hope you have that frame someplace in your house.
I even know where this picture was found, but yeah, and we didn't have anything. We didn't have much. We didn't even have a ball cart. Mr. Davis put 4 wheels underneath a dirty bin, washed it out, and that became our ball cart. We didn't have anything, and we made
That's amazing. We're gonna move on to the next picture.
it. Basketball, Mr. Corbett, Libu, champions again. Those were the infamous uniforms that lasted like 10 years. But we were a championship team, so that's a
10
lot.
that's good. 10 years. I see some uniforms that last in almost 20 years now. So 10 years is good to see a uniform last.
Yeah. I in front of Corbett. Softball, Mr. Rich, Mr. Richards. Nico Friday, Lalik, Jackie Man, I side by side. Wow. Yeah, this is I want to say this is probably my freshman year playing softball.
No, this looks like a star team.
Oh yeah, all of us we were really good ball players. Very good.
And the caption on the bottom says the Lady Hawks win the title. So that was definitely a good season for you all.
Hmm.
Look at this one. I like this. This is an interesting one.
Yeah, this was college number 4, and those were the top three players that were coming back. That's Casey Laraka setting, a really good setter. Number 9 is Yana Andanova. She's from Bulgaria. One of the best people I ever played with. And then I'm number 4 hitting.
Now I have to go look at the website because I think this picture might actually still be on the website itself, and that's what I think that's last a long time if we could still be on the website. Right here, what do you think?
I don't know who we were playing, but the way the gym was set up, all the bleachers were on the opposite side, so you can't see like spectators on your side. Um, and that's a middle. That's one of the best coverages. Justine is actually down waiting for the ball, but she used to be stressed because by the time I come down, like my foot would be by her eyes. So I think that's my sophomore year. I didn't have locks then. That's my sophomore year.
I'm gonna move on to the next picture.
That's in Trinidad national team. Going to the right, going to the center.
No, was this a win or
We came in, we lost to Trinidad and Tobago in a championship game, but we still qualified to move to the next round, and we went to Santo Domingo right after.
that's all that matters? You still represent your country, so that's the biggest thing to me. Whether you
Mhm.
win or lose, I mean you want to win, but just to be
Yeah,
able to represent your country, wear your country's colors, wear your name across the front is a big thing.
yeah. That
Now,
picture,
did we get a point off of this?
of course, look at how black is and look where my hand is. My entire hand over the net. Come on, that's against Suriname, and that girl blocking me actually now plays for FAU. Her name is Sigourney something, but she was a beast. I was so impressed with her. And she was so young at the time. So I think she's now at FAU. If she didn't graduate last year, she should be a senior this year.
Great, great, great.
That's me tipping the ball.
The element of surprise, right?
Yeah, and I believe that's against Team Canada. That's in Canada, it looks like.
Now I sure they're expecting you. They seen you play before. They're expecting you to come and fire the ball over the net. So that tip definitely. I'm pretty sure it was.
Yeah, yeah. Trinidad and Tobago, we won. Rhea Benjamin is actually not Rhea Benjamin, Rhea Simon. Number 5 is next to me. She went to Bethune Cookman. I missed her. She played. Amara is behind. I mean, she played in college. I see Lanis, Sasha, Kelly O'Brien is a photographer, Penelope, and Clarissa, number 3, is my setter. She's the reason why I went to school. She kept feeding me the ball
Now,
for scouts to watch me.
at this point, you are a veteran on his team, correct? Because those are some younger players that you actually coach as well.
Yeah, that's me playing on the senior national team, and at that time I was coaching CAHS. So those players ended up being on the national team.
Wow, that's amazing. That's a different experience. Like, you get to play with your coach, a different experience.
That's a youth national team that I coach. So I see Eddie. Eddie played at San Diego State. I see Aliyah Bryan. That's the governor's daughter. I see Shani. She's teaching now at I think Catholic school and coaching. Dungy in the middle. A few of them went to college from this set. Krista and yeah, this is a good set too. And Nicoya in number 7. She was a really good athlete too as well.
Definitely.
That's this year. With my one foot, I had a rough year. I had an injury coaching there with my ankle, actually my plantar, and then 3 weeks later is when I damaged my knee. But this, I love those girls. We were able to get them. I got that uniform came from Southland Gaming, and I hustled them for some uniforms and everything. And that's a group of athletic girls. And I actually focus a lot on coaching this year. I took a break from coaching briefly and I went back because my niece said she wanted to play volleyball in high school. She's somewhere in that picture in the back, and she was the MVP of a tournament. And I was determined that that's correct. That's my niece. And I was like, high school didn't really have a coach then. So I made up my mind that she needed a good coach. So I went back to coach.
Now, in that last picture, I saw a bunch of multi-talented athletes that have played more than
Oh
one
yeah,
sport. So
that was
that's
a good set.
our team. We're gonna move on to the next picture.
That's Ishe signing to Lawson State. That's her letter of intent for a scholarship.
Now, what does that moment feel like as a coach, just to be there supporting an athlete and just seeing them accomplish a dream of theirs?
It's exciting because, getting them through the door is difficult. The coaching girls are the most emotional human beings. But seeing them start and put in the hard work and this, they're determined to go on the next level, that's exciting. And you feel like a proud parent.
Moving on.
That's the night I won Carnival Queen.
What was going through your head at that moment? Because this is something that it's like you don't just walk around and say like I win Carnival Queen and don't like be proud about it. Like being the Carnival Queen is exciting for all, honestly. From you to the people that backing you to just being able to again represent your country. This is big.
Um, my mom, she would fuss about the fact that I don't wear dresses. I need to be a young lady. My mom is a very proper British woman and an educator forever. And when I was in high school, actually, she was like, either I can. And I I did it for her, to be honest. And it was a challenge. And when I won, they wanted to send me to South Africa because that's where Miss Universe was that year. And I had a dilemma because I already signed my letter of intent for college back in November and I couldn't default on my scholarship for school. I had a full ride. And yeah, so this is my cultural costume. My talent was the saxophone. The picture in the bottom is the opening of the village night with Laquanda Fredericks and Kimani Dow. Wow. And the purple dress is me giving up my crown.
No, no. Do you miss the fact that you didn't have the opportunity to go compete in Miss Universe?
Yeah, I missed it. And that's where sports, that's why now I don't play any open leagues. I think I pay my dues. And sports, the downside of it would be my social life was affected. I'm like in college for 4 years. My birthday is in September 27th. And if you look at FAU's games, we play throughout my birthday. And we'll end up having to like share cake in the airport, heading back from school. In high school, you want to go Miracle on Main Street, and that's a weekend a complex tournament. And then you want to go to Ag Fair, and Ag Fair is a weekend a complex basketball tournament. So now I coach, but if I have to play a sport, don't come me to practice. I ain't running no lap, I ain't stretching, no harass me because I think that I sacrifice my social life just to be a good athlete.
All right, let's see if we have any more pictures here in the bank because this segment right here, you're laughing and smiling at every picture. So what is that?
That's championship game against Antilles, and that's how I get my scholarship. I was 5'10", I'm considered short for outside hitter, but my jumping ability was a lot. My head is over the net. And not to be cocky, but when I hit a ball, I look down in my peripheral and I realize the open spots on the court because I already jumped so high that I used to get by. Um, my hitting was on point because of me jumping. That's why I was good in basketball too. I used to get rebounds and I could touch the rim and stuff. So that's what we
No, these pictures, you probably didn't see some of these pictures in more than 5 to 10 years.
a long time.
The memories from these pictures are going to last forever. We will probably be able to get you a copy of these pictures. And I sure these are stuff that you probably want. And just have a scrapbook of because those are some great pictures, some great action pictures of you playing.
Definitely.
All right, so we're gonna actually open the live to our questions now. Anything that you would like to ask Senator Janelle Sarauw, you can send them. We will relay the questions to her. We already have a couple that were here waiting already, so they were getting questions in early. They were ready to go. All right, so first question: how would you like to see the sports for young Virgin Islanders change, and what would you like to see the community do to improve it?
We need a sports infrastructure. So we need to fund sports park and recreation. We improved on funding for the not for the Olympics. So you need an Olympic committee to do its job as well. Under the Olympic committee, you have like a basketball federation, FIBB, softball, baseball, these associations, and they're picking up now, but these associations need funding and they need to appeal to the International Olympic Committee because one of the mandates of the Olympic Committee is that you have to give back to that region that's in need. So when you look at countries like Barbados and Trinidad, like FIVB invest in those countries because they made the sport a priority. If we would make sports a priority and reach out to the Olympic Committee would be right now. Actually, they want to build a gym out by Red Hook. That's where we're looking at to build this dome. This and it would be the Olympic Training Center. And the Senate is about to appropriate roughly 200K to match what the Olympic Committee is giving. So once you have the Sports Commission, I think that law was passed by Senator Jackson. So once you get the Sports Commission running with the Olympic Committee, the various federations, IAA, SPR Commissioner, and then of course now Corby Callender, who's the athletic director, they need to develop a plan and a vision, a territorial vision for the next 5 to 10 years moving on out with sports. How do you recruit? What ages you going to start by? You need a curriculum for sports by age 6. They should be switching by age 7. They should be doing this. And that's what you need to establish. Everything can be in the Senate, but you have those components that are just non-existent. So I think it'll begin with the Sports Commission and a strong strategic plan as to how to move forward with the skills that each athlete should know. And then by 12th grade, where do you move them for school?
What advice would you give to a young lady who just finished their freshman year of college and is considering quitting the sport they love?
No. We don't quit. We don't quit. Unless you're in an environment that's mentally abusive, unless you are in an environment that's physically abusive and discriminatory, I would first recommend that you go to your NCAA compliance officer. Every Division 1 school, every Division 2, 3, NAIA, whoever it is, they all have compliance officers. They're mandated to. So go to a compliance officer, and then schools are supposed to have counselors and academic advisors. So make sure you speak to your counselor about whatever is happening within your freshman year and the challenges that you faced. But unless you're going through like harsh conditions, I don't recommend that you quit. I had a rough time in my sophomore year. You know, one time I was supposed to go play in Kentucky, and my coach was like, "You're traveling this weekend," and I was mad. It was difficult, and I felt like my coach was being petty. But you take your punishment, and I lost my starting position briefly for like 4 or 5 games. And when you continuously being challenged, you look back and you realize that I can't be broken. So I would never say to give up. It's a process, and you have to surrender to that process and allow the process to work.
That's a great advice, honestly. You can't say any better than that. And I hope that that young lady, if she is watching, that she takes what she said into consideration and pushes and fights to continue her athletic career, because there's a reason that she's there.
Yep.
All right, this question here is an interesting one, and I want you to think about it carefully because we cannot help you. We do not get involved with family issues. Okay, you talked about your parents and your brother being your parents playing sports and your brother being an athlete of the year as well as yourself. Who is the best athlete in the family?
We even. Lev and I even. But I would say Lev because he's ambidextrous.
Mhm.
I only use my right hand. My brother wouldn't. I don't know if you've seen playing baseball. He'd a bat from the left, he'd bat from the right. He dribbles with any hand. He like an energizer bunny. I would say him.
That's a good answer. That's the answer that will save you in the long run. How can we work together as a community to help our local athletes travel to play and get exposure to earn them scholarships?
Goes back to my initial answer. A sports commission that's codified, that establishes it in the code. The sports commission establishes what should be done, when it should be done, the funding sources for it. But we can't put money to a sports commission that does not exist. And they're not taken seriously. SPI in one direction, Olympic Committee someplace else, IAA someplace else. And then IAA in the St. Thomas St. John district abides by one set of rules. And when you go to IAA and St. Croix, they play by international rules. And it becomes very convoluted. So you need a commission to work to establish what is sports in the Virgin Islands, the key sports they've been honing on, appeal to their respective international federations for like balls, because like FIVB provides every school free volleyballs. That's the game balls that we play with because that is one of their mandates to the sport. So I would go by saying establish a commission and move things along.
All right, what did your niece being the MVP of a tournament mean to you with her being in ninth grade?
I didn't think she was gonna be the MVP. The first game I remember, she was nervous. And I coach, I'm an intense coach, and I pull her to the side and I start ragging up, like, typical rag up. And then she started crying. I said, wipe those tears right now. And I said, come back on the court and play. And I started to rag up. And then when she went back on the court, I couldn't believe I was seeing. I was like, who is this kid? Like, and she was just diving for balls, going every place. And I'm probably tougher on her than anybody else because I expect more of her. But I don't boost her to a level where, she feels like she's the greatest. Like I need her to maintain a level of humility. So for me, it was okay, you win something, but that's not the end. Don't rest on your laurels.
And that being a MVP of a tournament as a freshman, a varsity tournament, that's a big thing. I think that's going to drive her, and we should be looking forward to see great
She
things
has the
from
jumping skills. Left jumps high, I jump high, she jumps high. So I
her.
think it's genetic.
We're looking forward to seeing her taking over as the best athlete in the family. Will you implement your refresher courses for coaches to be up to date with the sport they coach?
I can't implement it, but I think I should implement it because I see, even in basketball, being a national team player and just being a ball player, I hate to see when the center rebounds the ball and then brings the ball down instead of keeping the ball up. And then they're not looking for the outlet because the point guard don't run on the court and then there's no outlet. Um, that frustrates me. It frustrates me to see base running in softball. And when a ball is hit in left field, where do you go if a ball hit right field? Where do you go if the ball hits the shortstop and a player on third base? Those situational moments are missing. So I think that refresher courses are necessary, and in every single sport to for every and it should be mandated.
Being a great athlete that you were and player, what made you get into politics and become a senator?
My father is a politician. He was the administrator for Governor King. Him and Governor King were very close. If you come to our house is a Cyril King shrine. And he was the administrator for Governor Snyder. So on that side, I had my father into politics, and then my grandfather, my mom is from St. Kitts, and my grandfather is a nation builder who moved the country to liberation, and they became independent, him and his friends, and they wrote the Constitution. And then he is the longest serving Speaker of the House in St. Kitts, and he was given a title by the Queen. He went to Queen Elizabeth, and she bestowed upon him the title of Commander of the British Empire. So I lived in St. Kitts after Hurricane Marilyn. I went to the Dr. William Connor Primary School. And I spent every summer and holiday in St. Kitts. And then my grandfather, he made history interesting. And I watched the respect he garnered and how he was willing to fight against the colonial establishment to move St. Kitts into a new era. So between my grandfather and then my father, but I went to school as an engineering major. And then after a day in the lab, because in high school I had AP Physics and AP Calculus, AP Calculus, and I had physics with Mr. Walters. And I wanted to be an engineer. I used to go to engineering camp in the summer. So beside all the sports I had, I went to University of Delaware. My mom would send me to engineering camp every summer and you'd stay on campus and whatnot. And I was strong in math and science. But then I was in college and I was like in a lab for like 9 hours a day trying to find an unknown. And I was like, I don't know what this engineering business. And then I went to the career counseling lab and I took a test and it indicated what careers I would be good in. And then I took an elective called Politics of Arab Nationalism. And Dr. Robert Reveal changed my life and I went and changed my major. So I have a degree in political science with a concentration in Middle Eastern politics because I wanted to be a diplomat.
No, sometimes I hear you say engineering and athletics. I'm like, how does this match up? Because I've seen
was
people
it
do
was it
engineering
was
and
crazy.
like when you do engineering, you just they doing work all day that don't make no sense. I looking at my friend and I seen him doing this work and I'm like, why would you sign yourself up for this torture?
Yeah,
But
it's a lot.
it's a lot, definitely. But
Yeah.
to see somebody push to an engineering degree and to see them actually get a job in that field is amazing because I've seen the background what it takes to be an engineer and trust me, after you go through that, you definitely deserve whatever you make at that point.
No, I have a great respect for any engineer, civil, mechanical, environmental, electrical. I have a great respect for them. That's just not my calling.
Yeah, mine. Another question from the viewers. Your thoughts on having a future in sports tourism, hosting international tournaments and etc.
I've been saying this forever. That's why I'm so stressed about the fact that the horse racing track isn't up. Stressed about the fact that we haven't have the drag racing track isn't up. The whole Polly Joseph Stadium fiasco in St. Croix, where you gave them 27 million and you still have a pilot that watching you. So we can have a feature in sports tourism, but we don't build things right. The track at Utica still is not built to proportion. We decided we were going to do major renovations to CAHS, and the roof is still, the gym is the same. They just have AC and a wooden floor. And then UVI has not been friendly to the public, even though that was built with public funds. But I think once the commission has established what the role would be and the focus would be, I don't think the Senate would have a problem appropriating funds to sports. The problem right now is that you're giving money here, there, and you just don't see where it goes. You don't see what's happening. And we have a fiduciary responsibility to protect the government's coffers. But I would be the first to advocate for funding for sports the minute there's a plan in place.
We actually we just want to thank you for coming on the show, but we want you to give any shout out to any organizations you've been a part of growing up, any organization you're part of now in sports, anything. Just give them a shout out right now.
Um, Alamala School, where I began, Cancrane and CHS. I have an undying love. I'm a diehard chicken hawk. Sky High, we founded Sky High. Sasha Kim and I, CAHS, the national team, Lucy Richards, who believed in me, basketball, Corbett, and then Mr. Davis for volleyball, Rising Stars, Ali Paul for Mukujumbi, and Malwan Gums and the rest, and my chaperone Shanice, who helped me with Carnival Queen. And right now we're in the middle of a re-election season, so I want to thank the people for having faith in me to even be serving as a second term senator, moving to a third term senator as well. So I'm just humble and there, but for the grace of God, go I. And I'm grateful for those who have paved the path for me and assisted me in coming and reaching as far as I am. And of course my parents, Levin and Carlos through. I don't think anybody is a greater supporter of me than my father, really and truly. So and my mom. So I want to thank them.
I want you to look into the camera and just give one final message to young athletes out there that are attempting to complete the collegiate level or higher. Just some motivational words, something that will keep them going, something that may inspire them.
You have to prepare. You have to be serious. You have to show up to practice. When the coach says practice is 5 o'clock, come at 4:30. Walk into practice stressed. Be coachable. Be open to advice. And earlier I said there's a process. Everything doesn't go the way that you want it to go, but surrender to the process. Be open, and when you go through that process, it builds hope. It builds faith. It builds perseverance. It builds strength. And acknowledge and know that you are enough. Know that that you're not inferior, but that you come as you are, show up as you are, grow, but understand that you are enough and own your greatness. Walk in your greatness and live your purpose. Do what you've been called to do and go forth.
All right, once again, that is the multi-talented Senator Janelle Sarauw. I run out of fingers and toes counting all the stuff you don't do. So you can got another hand. I need a prosthetic hand or something. Something. So I need to count all these things, all these accomplishments you have made. Thank you again for joining us, taking some time out of your day to be a part of this show, being a part of our greater good. that you don't even know right now.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Between the Lines fans, we'll be back here next week, August 11th at 7 p.m. with our next guest. This one is a surprise. All right. Want to thank our sponsors for sponsoring the show today. We also want to thank Leo Sibley for our introduction track, which is called Born Ready. It is on all streaming platforms right now. Want to give a shout out to our executive producer, Lorena Robinson, and our technical and visuals guy, Mr. Shane O'Neill. Thank you guys for watching. See you next week.
I'm doing great, even though every day's not fine. But still I woke up today, another day to get on my grind. Got me singing, whoa, whoa, barefoot on Billboard Born Ready. Whoa, whoa, barefoot on Billboard Born Ready.